Hi there, this is Anka Oren. Today I want to make a video. I've been putting this off for a while now. I've been wanting to make a video about the potential risks of taking antidepressants and how they often studies have shown that they actually contribute to suicidal behaviors and violent tendencies. And I just really want to speak to that a little bit right now. About 6 months ago, a very, very dear friend of mine lost a family member to suicide, and this family member had been taking a number of prescription medications, at least one or two different kinds of antidepressants, which I was personally quite concerned about when they started taking it. And honestly, I feel that there's some degree of negligence there, or it's just a lack of awareness. It's a lack of understanding the deeper causes of depression and in suicidal tendencies. There's a lack of understanding amongst many in the professional realm that handle these things nowadays, and the way that medicine has been institutionalized, it leads to oversights and thinking that taking a pill is a quick fix when it's really not, and that also that it's a long-term solution when it's really not. Most antidepressants, because of the way they work, especially the serotonin reuptake inhibitors, what they do is they block your neurons from being able to reuptake the serotonin. So the serotonin is a neurotransmitter that goes between neurons, and so the serotonin will stay floating around and getting used for a long time when you take an SSRI. And then what happens is that your neurons will then actually they will downgrade the number of serotonin receptor sites that they have, because otherwise they will get overloaded. And so over time the SSRI just doesn't work as well, because you're not actually making more serotonin, you're just reusing the serotonin that you already have. Whereas with nutritional therapies and energetic therapies and really getting down to the root of the issue on a psycho-emotional level, on a spiritual level, you know what I'm saying? It's overlooking the problem. So it's just a band-aid, and it's not meant to be used long term. So in any case, I want to read a few facts from an article that I was looking at on Mercola.com, because I really respect him and the information he puts forth, and I think it's a really, it's just usually a really balanced, very well written source. So in this article, he says that it's estimated that a person commits suicide every 15 minutes in the United States, and each day just over 100 people take their own lives. That is amazing. That is astonishing. And I want to say right now, if you know anyone who has taken their own life and that you love, my heart goes out to you completely. I understand how absolutely devastating it is. And if you are in a state where you're depressed, you're feeling like you want to take your own life, know that I've been there. I've tried. That's a whole other story that I can tell another time if people want to hear about that. And I've been through some very major depressions myself, and I think that there is a huge, there's an arc to it. For me, at least in my own life, there's been an arc to it where I see how going into those really dark places has served me in the long run, but I'm glad that I made it out, and not everyone does. I was very fortunate in that way. And for me, nutrition, energy work, all the spiritual work that I've done has helped me greatly to move through that, and also feeling like I'm able to start actualizing the purpose in my life. And I think a lot of people are very stuck around that, and that's when I get to my lowest points. And some people who know me can probably confirm that. And just when I feel like, I'm not able to do my own work, when I'm in a rut and, working some job that I don't want to work, or money is scarce because I'm not sharing my gifts. So why I'm making these videos, why I'm putting myself out there, this is part of being able to share my gifts so that, I keep myself in a high vibration place, because that's how you do it. And sometimes you need to do some deeper work in order to get to the place where you can even do that. I'm going to make another video about where we get stuck and where I've gotten stuck in my life, so I'll talk about that more another time. But right now I want to focus on this. So let's see, for each suicide death, an estimated 8 to 25 people made attempts. So I've been in that category. This was many, many years ago when I was 18 years old, and it was like just a year over my father had passed, very tragically. Very, very tragically, and I'll talk about that another time too. But so anyway, I don't need to go through all of these facts. I'm just sort of scanning this article. Young people between 18 and 25 are most likely to have suicidal thoughts. And a lot of it is related to being bullied. There have been many issues lately around the LGBTQ community. Those kids, teens in those groups are much, much more likely to attempt suicide than straight teens. So, okay, and this is the thing that he says is one of the biggest precursors or factors in people who actually commit suicide, is that they often have a family history of suicide, which was in the case with my friend's family member. Have been exposed to suicidal behavior, such as from other family members or friends, and have suffered or witnessed physical or sexual abuse or domestic violence. So all of those people are especially at risk. But depression, whatever the cause of it, which any of those things can be the cause of it, is the main mental condition that leads to suicidal behavior. But what Mercola was saying, that the knee-jerk response to, or the knee-jerk treatment for depression in our country is just throw someone on antidepressants, and it's the second most prescribed category of drugs in this country, second only to cholesterol lowering drugs, which also I think is very dangerous. There's a whole myth that's been perpetuated that you have to keep your cholesterol very low in order to be healthy, and it's actually not true. I can read off some more research in another video on that. But one of the things that he mentioned in that article was that because your brain is made up of 30% cholesterol, if you're not getting enough cholesterol in your body due to taking cholesterol-lowering drugs or just not eating enough of it, but usually it's the drugs that do it, those people often, one of the main signs is those people start to suffer memory loss or poor memory, but also it can lead to depression. It can lead to less inhibition around suicidal or violent behaviors or tendencies. So, so there's a real problem here, especially because a lot of studies have shown, especially in young people, but in, not only in young people, that that taking antidepressants can and often does lead to suicidal attempts and also to violence and homicidal tendencies. So there's something in the brain that's being triggered by these drugs when someone is already in a vulnerable state. They're already out of balance. Then they're given these drugs that throw them further out of balance, and I don't know the specific mechanism of how it happens. And that then causes them, whatever it is, that normally we wouldn't carry out an action like that, somehow that goes offline to where a person is able to take the step to actually go through with taking their own life. So, and there are other drugs that Mercola cites here. Oh yeah, let's see. He also mentions since the late 1980s, there have been frequent reports of increased violent behavior, including homicides and suicides among individuals taking antidepressant drugs. A newly published study provides a plausible theory about how a genetic mutation in the CP450, cytochrome P450 gene family can cause a metabolic disturbance resulting in uncontrollable violent impulses and behaviors, including suicide in some individuals taking these drugs. So he says if you or your child is taking an antidepressant drug, it's important to be aware that suicidal thoughts may be a side effect. They're not the only drugs to watch out for. So he says other drugs that have been linked to increased suicide risks include the stop smoking drug Chantix, Accutane, which is for acne and also has a lot of really other horrible side effects, Singulair, which is an allergy drug, certain epilepsy drugs, Tamiflu, which is a flu drug, and the cholesterol lowering drugs, which I already mentioned. So, oftentimes, there's so many factors that go into why a person can become depressed. A lot of the time it has to do with loss of a significant relationship or the death of a loved one, which was my case, and significant stress around all of that when I went through that. Loss of your financial security or livelihood, diagnosis of a terminal illness, loss of your home or loss of your job, employment, and going through other really serious emotional and physical traumas, rape, abuse, and other traumas. So all of those things can push a person over the edge into suicidal tendencies. And I also would include just a general sense of self-hatred, which often I think can come from those things, when a person feels like they're just failing in life. and doesn't feel hope for themselves. I would say that one that's a huge one, a huge component. So let me see. There were a couple of other things I wanted to say. And also, I will say that, on the physical side, so there's those aspects of, the emotional traumas and difficult life situations. I think there's also the thing of feeling hopeless or feeling out of touch with your spiritual center and your love of yourself, your connection to that which is greater than yourself and your own ego, and a sense of having a sense of purpose, or a sense that you can actualize your purpose. Like for me, that's when I've been the most depressed, is when I felt like I have all this potential and all of these things to offer, and I have no outlet for it. I have no way to actually express my purpose in the world. And that's when I've had just the most difficult times in my life. So on the other hand, like aside from all of that, there also can be literal chemical imbalances, but it's not that we're just born that way, I mean, there that may be like we may have like encoded into our genetics, our DNA, and also our family's soul. There may be traumas and various, suicidal tendencies that have come from ancestors and ancestral situations that could be affecting us. And then there also, and that all of these things can cause the chemical imbalance, but it's not that you're just born out of whack, like there's something just randomly wrong with you. Like it can be stuff from the environment, it can be stuff from drugs that you've taken, it can be traumas, it can be, like I said, ancestral things, karmic things even from past lives. If you've ever heard about, past life regression therapy, the work of Brian Weiss, like doing past life regression therapy has helped a lot of people who don't know where their issues are coming from. I will say family constellations, which is some of the work that I do, also can help people to move through a lot of these situations. Sometimes there are straight up nutritional imbalances where a person's just been eating a really poor diet for a really long time. Their brain is not getting what it needs. They're toxic. Everything is gummed up. Sometimes candida and other parasites can cause mental illnesses like bipolar disorder. I've heard of bipolar disorder being directly related to candida. So all of those things, and then in terms of other possibilities of how, things that we can do to treat depression other than taking these drugs that have not been on the market for that long at all. I mean, I remember Prozac coming out when I was in high school, and I think that's when it was. And, my dad was a doctor, and I remember him having all these things. Like, I was like, I have a Prozac pen. This is very, special and ironic. That's what I was into in high school. So, and I don't want to not underscore the gravity of this discussion, but, it was this kind of thing that I remember when it came out, and I'm not that old. So they haven't been tested very long. We don't know the long-term side effects. We do know there are side effects. We know that this is highly, highly related. So what we want to really do is bring the body and the whole person back into balance and back into a place where you can, love yourself, because that is at the root. It's like you're disconnected from source, you're disconnected from your connection to other people, probably your connection to nature. There, many, many things. So with proper nutrition, actually getting nutrition into the body, into the cells. That's one thing that's going to help. And as well as, specific herbs and supplements. Let me read off a few of the things that Mercola talked about, and I'll add a few of my own suggestions. So he talks a lot. He's a big supporter of EFT, which is something that I actually was turned on to from him, and I practice now. And EFT or tapping, where you're tapping the endpoints of the meridians, that can be really, really useful for working with depression, and many, many other conditions. Let's see, he also says dramatically reduce your consumption of sugar, particularly grains and processed foods, any kind of junk food that's high in sugar and grains. And also additives that can affect your brain function, and artificial sweeteners, especially, which are excitotoxins and can literally cause your brain cells to be so excited that they just keep pumping out until they die. B12, so you want to make sure to get your B12 levels checked and supplement, or get a B12 shot if you are deficient. That can, he says, contributes to depression and affects 1 in 4 people. So that's huge, 1 in 4 people. And optimize your vitamin D levels. The best way to do that is by going out in the sun. And our society has really made us kind of sun phobic over the last several years. And I just think, the sun is your friend. If you get some of the toxicity out of your body and you clean up your act, the sun is not going to harm you as much. You're not going to be as sensitive to it. So it's good to go get like about 20 minutes of sunshine every day, and try, if you are somewhere where you can show enough skin to get some exposure, do that, or go to a safe tanning bed if you can do that. Barring those things, sometimes supplementing with vitamin D3, you want D3, not D2, can be really useful, or cod liver oil, which cod liver oil can be good for the omega-3s as well. That's another thing that you want, are omega-3s. So you could do cod liver oil, other fish oils. Cod liver oil, you're going to get the vitamin D as well. That's what people in northern climates always ate, because they weren't getting as much sun. Krill oil, if you want vegan options, you can do things like evening primrose oil, borage oil, flax, chia, hemp, pumpkin oil, coconut oil, hyalinoleic safflower, and hyalinoleic sunflower oil. You can find blends with all of these things, or some of these things. So those are all really good options to get your EFAs. Whether you want to do it vegetarian or not. Let's see. And he also mentioned to evaluate your salt intake. Make sure you're actually getting a full spectrum salt, like Himalayan salt or Celtic salt. You don't want to use processed table salt, because it can throw off your electrolyte balance. Let's see. So yeah, and plus Himalayan or Celtic salt contain a lot of micronutrients and minerals that are very important. If we don't have adequate minerals in our body, which are the catalysts for chemical reactions in the body, then nothing is going to function right. So I recommend using a Soleil salt that you make from Himalayan salt, where you soak some big chunks of Himalayan salt in pure water. Can be reverse osmosis water, spring water. Those are generally the best kinds. And let it dissolve until the water is completely saturated. And you'll still have, once the water becomes saturated, you'll still have some salt left inside. And you can just put some in a dropper bottle, put a few drops in your water. That's a really great, easy, cheap way to get more minerals in. And you can use it in, cooking and whatnot as well. Or you can buy a trace mineral supplement. So those things are all really important. Let's see. Oh yeah, and exercise, exercise, and not taking statins, as we discussed earlier. Dr. Mercola talks about that. He says that what many people don't know is that low cholesterol is dramatically linked to increased rates of suicide. So and aggression toward others. So you don't want your cholesterol to be too low. You don't want it to be necessarily sky high, but you don't want it to be too low either. Cholesterol performs a lot of very important functions in your body. It's part of all of your cell membranes. It makes very important hormones. You need cholesterol. If you don't have enough of it, you're not going to function properly. Let's see. So, and I think there were also a couple of other things that I wanted to mention. 5-HTP can be a very helpful supplement. 5-hydroxytryptophan's precursor to serotonin, which is the neurotransmitter that keeps your mood up. St. John's wort can be a very helpful herb in that way as well, although it can make you more photosensitive, so then you can't spend as much time in the sun. So there's that. But, if you can't spend a lot of time outside anyway because you live in a cold climate in the winter, then maybe take your St. John's wort. It is kind of a sunshine herb, and it's a nervine tonic, so it just helps calm your nerves as well as brighten your mood. And let's see. So the other alternative therapies, like what we already mentioned, the EFT is really great. Some other bioenergetic modalities, some of the things I practice, like energy work, body talk, matrix energetics, doing guided imagery and visualization. You can go in and talk to your symptoms. You could even talk to your depression. Hypnotherapy, neurolinguistic programming, that's very powerful. Combine it with hypnotherapy, and constellation work, and family constellations and systemic constellations, past life therapy for those who might be affected by that. Yoga, just yoga practice and other somatic therapies, and any kind of exercise. Also, dancing is an amazing way to move through your emotions and express them through your body. Gestalt therapy and cognitive behavior therapy also have been known to make a huge impact on depression. So all of these things, and cognitive behavior therapy, I think, can reduce suicidal tendencies by 50%, which is really pretty good. It's actually better than antidepressants, which are almost like not even barely more effective than a placebo, which just shows you that the power of your mind and the power of believing that something works is maybe the most powerful thing you've got. So the last thing that I want to say in this is that if you're really suffering from depression, or someone who is suffering from depression, the thing even deeper at the root than all of this other stuff that I mentioned, I kind of alluded to it a little bit before, is that there's a lack of self-love going on, and you're not even going to be able to get yourself out of the hole that you're in enough to do the things that you need to do, like going and exercising and feeding yourself healthy food and taking supplements, or even taking your drug. I mean, a lot of times someone else has to help you with that, like if you are taking a drug, which I don't recommend. I also don't recommend getting off your drugs if you're on them. I just want to make that note, like, you need to work with your doctor to get off of these drugs, because messing around with the dosages and just taking yourself off of it, that can throw you off even more. So be very careful with that. I want to really be clear on that. But at the root of these things, it's really a lack of self-love and a lack of belief in yourself and your own worth. And I feel that is one of the places that we really need to start, by just giving yourself enough love to say, I love you. You deserve to be here. You're here on this earth. You're a child of the universe, of God, of source, of the force, whatever you want to call it. You're here. Even if you're a complete atheist, you exist. You're here, so you deserve to be here. You have something to offer to other people, to this world. You have a place waiting for you to belong, and you might not be able to climb out of where you're at right now and into that, but you do have a right to love yourself, no matter what, no matter where you are. If you're lying in a gutter, you deserve to love yourself. It doesn't matter. And a lot of us lose sight of that. I've lost sight of that before, where I feel like I'm not making any valuable contribution in the world. I don't deserve anything. I've held myself back from opportunities. I've held myself back from various things in my life when I've been in those states, and I know it's so destructive. So just to choose to work on that, and to choose to work on your fundamental disconnect from reality, is often a very powerful place to start. Let's see, there was one thing, I can find it, that I wanted to read. I can find it. I don't know, I'm not sure if I can find it. Right. Oh, this part. So you might not be able to, this was just reminding me, you might not be able to change your actual circumstances, but you always have a choice to change how you respond to them and how you react. So, you want to tune into your body, feel your body, do some visualizing, go inside and talk to those parts of yourself that are depressed, that are hurting. And if you really, if you or someone is in that dark place, don't be alone, or don't let them be alone. Call the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. I will put the number in the text below this video. And yeah, just know that whatever you're going through, you absolutely deserve to be here. You don't need to pop a drug to contribute to the profit of the giant pharmaceutical industry that does not care about you. They don't. I'm sure there are people within those organizations who care, but on the main, the companies themselves are interested in profit, not in helping people. And I say that with all seriousness. And I think the drugs, they can be helpful in the short term, but you should not be taking them long term. You don't know what they're doing to your body on the deepest level. You don't know what they're doing to your DNA. So I highly encourage you to seek help from professionals who use alternative therapies, who use nutrition, herbs, homeopathy, any of these things, and to do some work like family constellations and past life regression therapy, things that go deeper, to where you can kind of discover where are some of the real roots behind how I'm feeling. And if you've just, well, if you're feeling suicidal over losing a job or income, I think there's even still then there's something deeper to it. But that is a trauma. So work on, if you're dealing with traumas in your past, if you're dealing with a family history of other suicides, or you've had friends who've committed suicide, all these things, you need to talk to someone, a professional who can help you, and so that you can work through letting some of these traumas go and being able to transform them into being able to find the purpose in your life so that you have something to live for, because you do. You're here. You absolutely have something to live for. And yeah, that's what I want to say. So I love you so much. Whoever out there is watching this, I love you, I love you, I love you. You are so loved. Please take this information to heart. Please leave me any comments. I'll do my best to answer. And take care of yourself. You are part of this universe, and you make it what it is. So you're much more powerful than you think or than you know. I want you to know that. So I love you, and I will see you next time. Okay. Blessings.